the thing that helps you succeed probably quicker than anything is having someone to look up to that you can identify with, right? So if there's, not a lot of women in leadership, it's hard for these up and comers to imagine themselves in that leadership role because it's not modeled. And modeling is really powerful.
Welcome to the Italian Wine Podcast. I'm Cynthia Chaplin, and this is Voices. Every Wednesday, I will be sharing conversations with international wine industry professionals, discussing issues in diversity, equity, and inclusion through their personal experiences working in the field of wine. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and rate our show wherever you get your pods. Hello, and welcome to Voices. This is me, Cynthia Chaplin, and today I am delighted to welcome Amanda Wittstrom-Higgins to Voices. She's the founder of Full Cup Solutions, a full-service consulting firm for future-forward agriculture and beverage industry businesses. Amanda has been in the wine business virtually all of her life as one of the second-generation owners of Ancient Peaks Winery in Paso Robles in California. And as EVP of Ancient Peaks, she led the change on building a successful national wholesale network and a D2C program. During her tenure, she founded an innovative mentorship program and co-founded Wine Speak Paso Robles, which was considered one of California's premier wine industry trade events, produced for 3 years from 2018 to 2020. And also in 2018, Amanda founded the nonprofit Dream Big Darling, which is what I really want to talk about today. And she was then selected as a 40 under 40 tastemaker by Wine Enthusiast and the September Cover Girl. She was also nominated for their Social Visionary Award the same year. And additionally, Amanda was named 2024 Wine Industry Leader by Wine Business Monthly. So that is a lot. And I am so glad that you had time to talk to me today, and so all our listeners can hear about the fabulous stuff you're doing. So welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. It's an absolute joy to be here. I love the podcast. I love what you're doing, and it's a real privilege. So thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Well, let's just dive right in. You were born and raised in agriculture. As I said, you've spent your whole life in wine, basically. You've got this enormous knowledge of all the aspects of the alcohol business, from D2C, DEI, national distribution, operational streamlining, social media, marketing, everything. So what made you decide to start the mentorship program at Ancient Peaks? What did you think was missing, and how did you set out to change things and get that underway?
Well, it's so much fun to look back. I think that, when I started in the wine industry, I was early on in my career. And one of the things that I felt like as I grew and developed that would help young people identify their strengths, because aligning your strengths with a company and a career are really, really important. And that's not always something that's part of the, university or college curriculum. And it's not something that's taught widely in homes. And so what I really loved was matching individuals with their strengths and really highlighting what those strengths were, and then teaching them how to align within a company environment. The wine industry is really diverse, and the skill set that you have to succeed for most small to medium companies is a very wide array, because we're actually a lot of us are producing the product, we're marketing it, and we're taking it all the way through, which is different than a commodity crop in the ag industry. Like, we're also cattle ranchers, and cattle, the beef market is very different than the wine market. In some cases, than the wine industry, your product could be worth almost nothing, whereas in beef, it's almost always has a value. And so it's very interesting and it's different. And what I wanted to do was help young people find success faster, because a lot of young adults are struggling with the concept of, what do I want to do? I want to make a lot of money, and sometimes they're chasing the almighty dollar and forgetting to say, like, hey, where can I best leverage my natural skills and gifts, that things that come to me more easily than anything else. And so the concept behind the mentorship program and this multi-divisional internship, which is what was created, was to give young people, a pretty substantial window into the different types of roles that they could go into in agriculture and in the wine business. And so instead of like only having tasting room experience, which is typically how people enter, or only having production experience, because those are oftentimes lower level entry market positions, it was like, well, let's give you a taste into events, into marketing, into the wholesale channel, into admin. So you're going to be like filing and collating invoices with purchase orders. What do you like? Do you like being in the office setting? Do you like interfacing with others? Do you like being outside, or do you want to be left alone to kind of work on projects, in more solidarity? Whereas, hey, maybe winemaking is a better fit for you if you're like a little bit of a mad scientist and perhaps don't like being around people, but like being in a cave like environment. So there's just so many different ways that you can match, the roles with the experience, and then say, like, here's the wine industry salary and compensation report. So look at this. If you want to go into winemaking, we typically only need one winemaker per company. And you're going to need to live in a certain area because, unless you are a very prized winemaker, you're not going to be jet setting from LA to wine country. You're going to need to live and work in wine country. So it just offers more perspective so that people can make a decision that fits them and move up. And I think that's a lot of young people, they go to school, or they envision a lot of success very quickly. And so being able to just help guide them and be a real life experience, and offer insights on, like, this is how you act when you work for a company. Like, if you have an expense allowance, you spend their money like it's yours. And some hard lessons, like probably dating people at work is not a great idea. Like, and if to act with integrity, and know that every moment you're building your personal brand, no matter what position you're at. So if you're cleaning toilets and you don't want to be cleaning toilets, how you clean toilets is how you're going to get your next job. So it's just that kind of perspective is not always given, but I have found it to be very valuable in my own career. And so that was how I wanted to leverage that internship and mentorship program. And then from there, it just opened my eyes to, like, wow, this is actually something that could really help change the world. And so from there on, it just kind of dove deep into, it's what I love doing. It lights me up, and it led to a whole bunch of other pathways, which was very exciting.
Well, I love the positive aspect of it. Instead of, you know, taking people on board and saying, okay, you're lost, you don't know what you're doing or what your pathway is, let us help you. I like the fact that you're coming at it from, this is your strength, so let's find how to align it. I think that's, people who are at the beginning of their career, or in a career change, or just in a moment where they're not feeling, very secure in their own abilities. It's really nice to have a mentorship program that starts from the point of view of, you're great, here's your strength, let's figure out how to make the best of that. I think that's a really nice way to go forward, and will probably appeal to a lot of people. So um, Ancient Peaks, I know, was started by three men, one of whom was your dad. And the website says they're committed to advancing the legacy of early California rancho hospitality, which I like. And you alluded to the cattle as well. So how did everybody react to the mentorship program? What was the reaction of people at the winery? Who became your mentees, since you started? And, we know that this can be kind of a macho environment. I live in Italy, where there's a huge amount of machismo. So coming up with something that's a little bit softer skill, mentoring, is often kind of, people don't want to know. What was the reaction at Ancient Peaks when you started?
Well, I've been really blessed to have terrific mentors, and the owners of Ancient Peaks, Doug Filipponi and my father, of course, have been tremendous advocates for me. And at the end of the day, it's somewhat like capitalism, right? Like you have to cultivate success. So in our rural environment where we live and work, we're in California, but it's not in an urban environment. You're not getting people who are trained at the Ritz Carlton or have MBAs coming out of Stanford. Like it's a rural environment. So if you want to have talent on your team, a lot of time you're cultivating it yourself. So for me, it was like, how do we find the best people and cultivate their success faster? Whether they stay with us or whether they go somewhere else, that's the reputation that we want to hold. Also, in agriculture is different than I think any other industry because there is a legacy of training the next generation. So if you own and farm your land, right? Like, and you see this a lot in cattle ranching, is like, the young cowboys, they get the best horses, and the older guys, they put their arm around you and they teach you because you can't do this type of work forever. And so it's really important that you're passing on those skills and showing them the right way. Like whether that's, taking care of your land, taking care of the animals, whatever it is. So that is a steadfast way in agriculture, which I feel like is very unique. So in some ways, what this perspective that I'm sharing is not at all unique. It just feels like it to the business world, but it's how you're going to cultivate success. And if you can help, I'm results focused, right? I love sports. I love playing sports. I love coaching sports. And the goal is the win, right? As we define it, right? So our win in business or agriculture or wine is, great products and increased consumption, not as on an individual basis, but from a global community, right? Like we want to invite more people to be part of our industry because it's beautiful. It actually benefits your life, when used responsibly. It brings people to the table. It connects them with agriculture. It connects them with food, and so I love wine. I think it should be on every table. But at the end of the day, we're worried about the win, right? So the win is we want more wine on lots of different tables. Whether you came from agriculture, whether you came from an inner city, we want you to feel like you're part of our community. Now, what's happened and what's happening and what's happened in the wine industry is it's extremely capital intensive. If you link back to prohibition, you know, many of the distributors, wineries, they're all owned by older white men. It's just, we're in the private sector and it's capital intensive. I mean, gosh, women have only had the right to get a loan in the United States for, I think it's like less than 50 years. So, in a very capital intensive business, it's not ironic that it's held by older white men. The problem is this: we're shrinking. The consumption is shrinking. So to me, when I look at like, well, what's the answer? Because let's get a solution. Let's get a plan. Let's not sit here and dwell on the statistics. Like, how are we going to change it? One thing would be we need different voices in leadership putting forth a thought process that's different than what we currently have. That's not saying anything's wrong with what we're currently doing. It's just saying if we want the future to look different, we're most likely need to change the way that we're operating day to day. And so from this mentorship program, I was noticing that there was a lot of women who were extremely talented, didn't have a lot of direction, in the way that because it's a male dominated, area. The thing that helps you succeed probably quicker than anything is having someone to look up to that you can identify with, right? So if there's, not a lot of women in leadership, it's hard for these up and comers to imagine themselves in that leadership role because it's not modeled. And modeling is a really powerful way to cultivate leadership. And so from there, I thought, what if we created this organization that where we lift up the next generation. We're focusing on people who are at a pivotal point in their career that could use a hand up, that probably can't afford it, that are not at the executive level yet, but are targeted high performers that will no doubt be helping lead our industry in the future. But let's cultivate this concept of, the agricultural concept was we help our own, right? We help, we teach, we cultivate, and boy, wouldn't it be great if they could do it better than we have, in the past, right? So it's more of a progressive concept. And then I started talking to people, and everyone was like, yes, we want to do it. Yes, we want to do it. And then one of my biggest mentors, Chuck Faria, who is a master sommelier from Oahu, and someone who, on the surface, I'm very different from. He was the 10th master sommelier. He comes from an island. He is, probably close to 70 years old, but the philosophy that he holds and how he views life and teaching the next generation is very similar to mine. And in an island environment, you have to work so much harder to be good at your craft, because they don't have the luxury of driving 3 hours to go see vineyards, or having, lots of producers who are authorized to sell in your tiny island, just because of, the freight costs and availability. But what they do have that's very powerful, they talk to millions of tourists. So you could almost say that, these destination islands that are highly sought after are bigger mouthpieces for the wine industry than almost anyone else, because they are seeing travelers, from all over the world. These travelers are in a state of mind where they're more willing and to try something new. They're more in a more relaxed environment, and so they in Hawaii have this powerful connection to create with the guest. And so we partnered on this amazing event called Wine Speak, but it was really about bringing education and community and collaboration together for the global world of wine. And I'm so grateful for that.
Well, it's true. What you said about these dream destinations can be a real stage for the wine world in a way that a wine event or something like that can't be. And you are singing my song, as you know. I want to have as many seats at the table and as many tables as we can possibly imagine. And tourism does that. People come from all different walks of life, all different ages and stages, with all different reasons for traveling. And you're completely right. They're in a relaxed mode. They're in vacation mode, and it's just the right time to say, hey, have you ever tried this very rare grape that nobody's heard of? Here, let's have a go at it. So I love, as I said, I love your approach. I like how positive you are at looking at the challenges that individuals face getting into the industry, but also that the industry is facing. And we know that there are some pretty big ones. So, in 2018, you started Dream Big, Darling. So that's how I found you. And the aim was exactly this: lifting up the next generation of women in the wine and spirits industry. And I really want to talk about this. I'm so excited to finally have time to do it. So I love the name. Absolutely, and there is a story behind it, and I want you to tell it because it really touched me. But let's talk about the whole idea behind Dream Big, Darling.
Yeah, so it's a grassroots organization, and it's a community. We don't have memberships. If people are interested in being connected, please go to our website and sign up for our newsletter. Follow us on social media. You will, have access to opportunities and events that we do. But it's really about a focused approach to impact, you know, to impact the next generation. And we are not trying, there's other organizations that do a great job, but they're more interested in volume. And that's something that's important to their constituents. We align with people who are trying to make a real impact. Since we've started the original cohort, like in 2018, we did our first leadership retreat. And that was 6 years ago. I've had conversations with several people who were in that cohort recently. So this is not a fly by night. This is not a fly by night campaign. We are deeply connected to the people who go through our program. They are connected to one another. They're meeting each other through our scholarships or events. They're going to each other's weddings. I mean, it is a very much a community. And it's just, it is an amazing opportunity, and our deep penetration, like we want to make sure that we are teaching this next generation to, lead with kindness and respect. We're not climbing on each other to get to the top. And and I think that that is somewhat unique in business. There's enough room for all of us, and we want to make the pie bigger. Like, there's enough room for all of us in the wine industry, especially if we're able to touch different audiences. And so,
And I think it has to be said that women generally tend to do this better, in terms of not climbing on each other, but supporting each other, and making those pieces come together in a way that's really positive and not competitive. I mean, everyone, as you said, wants the win, but sometimes the win is better accomplished as a team rather than as an individual. And women are good at that.
and I think that there's examples on both sides. I've had amazing mentors that were men, um, and women. So I never want to, you know, I don't want, this message isn't divisive as like someone does it. I mean, perhaps there are statistics that could be pointed to that align with your comments, but for me it's more about like, this is just the right way to do business and to lead. And honestly, all of our curriculum would be perfect for any man that wanted to be part of, an organization like this. Like, it's universal. However, if you want to make a deep impact, you have to focus. And so our focus is not we're helping everyone. Our focus is not, we're in every sector for any age. Our focus is we want curriculum. We want people who can identify with one another because they're a similar stage in life, because peer-to-peer mentorship and engagement is really, really important. If we had a, 75-year-old man, it just doesn't really align with the group. So for us, it's up and coming. You have to touch wine and spirits, whether that's production, whether it's wholesale, whether it's PR, whether it's, accounting or beverage law, whatever it is. You have to just touch the industry. Can be from anywhere in the world. But it's women, because the when I thought of this concept originally, and it's not just my concept, it was the seed of an idea, but it's really a number of people who contributed, who brought this vision to life. And I am so grateful for those who encouraged me and still stand beside and behind this mission. Because the nonprofit world is, sometimes it's a they don't last forever. In a lot of cases, historically, nonprofits can start and then leave, and we've had some, pretty steady success and a lot of engagement. So I'm very thankful for that. But when I was looking at my daughter, I was on maternity leave, and she was born in December of 2015, and I was looking at her. I was feeding her at night. I was breastfeeding her at night, right? Because if you start talking about that in a group that doesn't resonate with, like, you've lost a whole lot of people, right? So I'm going to be personal. I'm breastfeeding her in the middle of the night, sleep deprived, thinking, this fucking world's going to hell in a handbasket. What am I going to do? What am I going to do to make the world better for her? What is my legacy going to be? Regardless of money, what can I do? And I think that approach, if any of us could just say, what can I do? Like, the power is mine. The results are going to be pretty great, especially collectively if we all do that. So I'm feeding her, and I think, you know what? Boy, it would have been really nice to have a big sister and a mentor to help me with some of the things that I'm going through. And my dad's great and our partners are great, but they're not breastfeeding a baby in the middle of the night. And they have a wonderful support system at home, which the culture back then was very different. And they didn't worry about going and getting groceries or putting dinner on the table or picking their kids up for school or dealing with the aftermath of you missed again my game, right? So it's just different. And it's for women, it's challenging because there's this balance of you don't want to miss out on for a lot of women of the beauty of raising a family, but at the same point, if you can't be extremely devoted to your career, then because of that culture, you may not be considered for other opportunities. But my point is this: there's a hell of a lot of talent, and if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss the fucking results. And the results for many women are not good and not great. They're exceptional. They're fucking exceptional. So to say like, well, this person can't be in, late into the evening or go golf on the weekends or put in 12 hours or whatever. They just put in 8 and the fucking results are better. It's results based. Like that's what change corporate America view of, success. Let's look at results. I don't care if you can do it in 10 minutes, great. I think you should be paid accordingly. If it takes you 10 hours, that's your problem, not mine. So we have to look at results, and the results that I was seeing, which were on a limited capacity, was there's an exceptional thought leaders that aren't making their way to the top because they're not able to dedicate their lives to their profession, which in a lot of cases, if you read about people who are very, very successful, they almost have a split passion for, something that's work and then not related to work. So it actually creates what I believe is a healthier individual who can connect with, constituents or their team or whatever, if you have more of a balance. So I thought to myself, I want to mentor 100 women. I want to create this big sisters program for women in the wine and spirits industry, and I want to raise $1 million. And like we beat that by a long shot. So, but it's in order to accomplish something, you have to dream big. And that's what the men who were in my life taught me. The darling came from my grandmother, and I'll share this with you. I haven't shared this before publicly, but growing up, my mother had pretty substantial a mental illness, manic depression, which she just released a book about it, and it was her, life goal to share her experience with the world so that it would bring awareness to others who were battling similar situations. But she was hospitalized 3 different times so far, and growing up, I didn't really know what was going on, and nobody really had told us other than like, your mom spends months in bed, and you're like, what's going on? This doesn't seem right. But my grandmother, that's why you never know who you're going to touch, right? In life, whether it's a coach, whether it's a friend, a mentor, you never know where someone is at individually and how you might play a role. And so growing up, my grandmother, looking back, like she knew what was going on. She knew that my mom couldn't care for us, and my father poured himself into work because that's easier, and I don't blame him for that, of course. But she loved us like no one else could, and she always called me darling. And at her funeral, when she was 83, there was hundreds of people there, which is not normal for being that age, right? Because most of your friends are dead. So, and she wasn't rich, she wasn't famous, but she loved people with kindness. And as people were talking about her at her funeral, I realized she called everyone darling, but I felt so special when she was talking to me. And I thought, if we could have a world where everyone is striving for their personal best, but doing it with kindness and encouragement like she did, wouldn't that be a beautiful place?
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's so beautiful to hear that story. As you said, somebody who, was just being themselves, not trying to be anything they weren't, and can have an impact that's so enormous and that is so lingering. It will linger on into your own children, and it is magical. And it's something I think that we do see a lot of in the wine industry. As you said, agriculture families do tend to stay together. People value their land and pass it on, but being able to pass love on is often harder than passing on, an asset. So it's clear that that's made such a big impact on you, and you are, you're sharing it out not only with your own family but with all these people that you're mentoring. So it's fantastic what you're doing. I know you have to go. I just want to I just want to mention one more thing that you're doing that I'm really curious about. And you've said, that you want to grow mindfulness of different cultures, and so do I. This is very near and dear to my heart. Different perspectives, different viewpoints, and you have some really innovative programs going about this. You've got Fresh Voices and you've got Flourish. And I just want to ask you really quickly about those, because I think, again, sharing love and inviting people to our tables and making what we do accessible to others is very important. So let me hear what you're doing, trying to grow the mindfulness of different cultural perspectives.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have a couple of different programs, and Fresh Voices is a partnership with Meredith May. She's the owner of Psalm Journal and Tasting Panel Magazine, and so she's been amazing to offer us a space within that publication to share concepts that are important to our community. And so we allow and encourage members of our community to contribute, and we coach them through the process. Also, it's a great way to get your concept into the world. It's a great way to help level up your career, it being published. And so it's a fantastic opportunity. So Fresh Voices is one. Flourish is another program. It's a 6-month coaching program. So this is individual coaching, and it's got a group component, and it's virtual. Our partners are the Millinger Group. It's a wonderful connection. The program actually honors my partner Rona's original mentor. Her name was Florence Framberger. She was one of the first women in the spirits industry at a director level. She started as a secretary. She ended up finishing as the head of HR for Moss Jägermeister, was previously head of HR for Beam Estates. And so she is definitely a woman that set the tone within the spirits world. So Rona and I created this program in her legacy, and we were very blessed that Moss Jägermeister, as well as several others, have come in to underwrite that program. So it's free of charge, and it's a $6,500 value. It's an amazing experience, and we're all about cultivating strengths. So yes, it's been wonderful. And again, I'm so grateful for your time, and I gotta run. Yeah.
No, I know you do, and I want to give you a big hug. It's the end of my day here and the beginning of yours. This was such a nice conversation to have, and I think what you're doing is important and it's authentic, and I love how happy you are about it, and that your family's involved too. So have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening, and remember to tune in next Wednesday when I'll be chatting with another fascinating guest. Italian Wine Podcast is among the leading wine podcasts in the world, and the only one with a daily show. Tune in every day and discover all our different shows. You can find us at ItalianWinePodcast.com, SoundCloud, Spotify, Himalaya, or wherever you get your pods.